afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, geeks and nerds and ambassadors everywhere, and welcome back to the Ambassador Wing and Council of the Ones Crusade review. And hope you all are having a lovely Thursday afternoon or evening. Hope you all are having a really good day. And we are back with episode 6 of Crusade. And along with me, you know him, you love him, he's wacky, he's crazy. Well, he has to be here. My good friend, Mountains of Elysium. And want to say hello to the chat really quick. Archer Colin, MB Geek, Let's Talk, another member of the council. Good to see you, fellas. And Elysium, we're about to take a dive down the well of forever. So, how you doing, my bud?
Doing well. This was another, fun episode. I saw one of the funniest moments, I thought, in Babylon 5 history with the what are they doing to my ship?
What are they doing to my ship? It seems like to be chewing, and he's like getting. It's like that doesn't feel like chewing. And Iverson's like, well, was it Matheson? I can't remember. Like, is that thing trying to mate with my ship? Get it off of here now! And Gideon looks at Galen. He's like, that thing better not have done anything to my ship.
It was just a look of realization on his face. I think was it Gary Cole displayed it just beautifully.
He did. He really did. He really, really did. It reminds. If Excalibur had a voice and a face, I gotta look up this clip. I know I might get a copyright claim, but I don't care. I found. I gotta look up this clip. So give me a minute, guys. Actually, there's 2 clips I think would be appropriate. I'll come back to this one later. Close this. Sorry, folks. I just need the short version, not the long version. There it is. Okay. No, you're fine. I found it. You're good. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Grading she would be Lexa Doing. I don't know who that is. Okay. All right. I found the clip. I should have had this pulled up earlier. I'm sorry, everybody. Please don't yell at me. Be sure it's up.
Hey, man! What happened? Are you okay?
He's blind me.
That's great.
Okay.
Hey, actual physical contact. Can you move?
Hey, Ray, come in, please.
I feel so funky. Spangler.
There we go.
Can you imagine the equivalent of Mac and Bo having to go out and clean it?
Oh no.
That's where my mind went. I'm going, oh god.
Oh, no. The actress who played Rami in Andromeda, Archer. Colin, sorry, I never watched Andromeda, so I don't get that reference. So sorry, don't yell at me. I don't get that reference. I never watched Andromeda. But yeah, oh crap. Okay. Oh, has it cleared up now? Elysium?
Yeah, seems to be. Okay. Yeah, you were roboting a little earlier, but it seems to be good now. It could have been too.
Okay. I got one more clip. Just give me a minute to look it up. Elysium, share your thoughts with the good people while I do this.
Yeah, Well, this is kind of for me, this is fun. Like I said, the episode where there's creatures in hyperspace and they do things to Gideon's force ship. That was a fun moment for me. Galen should have warned him. Yeah, it is a bit shocking. It's there are some good character moments here. I know kind of might be discussing. Fiona dropped some really nice comments in the chat earlier. But Darina and Gideon playing cards at the table, and just a nice little interaction between them. And Gideon saying, "I know you're cheating because that's the card I threw away." It was a fun moment. He wasn't angry. He was just enjoying spending time with a, I think, person he considered a friend. And it's a good, touching moment of how they interact.
Okay.
So,
this will be a slightly more out of context, but I think still appropriate in terms of what happened to the poor Excalibur. So just bear with me for a minute.
Oh, Lord. What's coming?
Hang on. Sorry. Is it up yet? I've had these up. I am sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
What are we watching? Good God.
Sorry, I had to do it. I'm gonna have to save those clips from now on.
Oh my God. I can't unsee that.
Yeah. I think, Colin, that was recorded by somebody on their phone or off their TV or something, but you get the gist. Lewis, guys, good to see you. Hey, Master, what was that hamster doing? That clip is from Dr. Doolittle starring Eddie Murphy. We were talking about how the Excalibur was essentially partially mated with by a giant hyperspace jellyfish, essentially, and that was my analogy for, or not my illustration for how the Excalibur must have felt. I've just been violated. Or, of course, as Dr. Venkman said, it's slime to me. I feel so funky. Anyway, okay, enough with the hyperspace jellyfish trying to mate with the Excalibur. Let's move.
Oh.
Let's move on to the rest of the episode. Yes. Elysium, let's try and soldier on here. I'm sorry, I completely like this. Maybe we should have saved that part for the end of the review.
It's kind of going, let's move on and never discuss that again.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So essentially, this is kind of a filler episode, which could have potentially given them answers to how do we cure the Drak plague. But instead, okay, and I'm not saying this to be rude to Galen, it's essentially Galen going to spread the ashes of his long lost, or not, of his late sort of techno mage waifu. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk, but in a way that is kind of what's going on here. Although there is a lot of deeper stuff in this episode, and it is, I will say, is a very thoughtful episode. It's a very well written episode, and it was a very enjoyable episode. So, Elysium, where would you like to begin, bud? I mean, or if you want to follow along with, if you want to kind of use Fiona's notes as a template to get us through the rest of this after the whole debacle that I just took us through, and I am sorry. I am sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, we could go through Fiona's notes because she always does a good job with this.
Yes, she does. So, let me pull up her notes too. That way we both can look at them and read them and junk. A man being slimed and a hamster being almost drowned. You never know what's going to happen when you tune into the Council of the Ones.
You don't have to be crazy, but it does help.
It helps.
We're all crazy here, and I think some of the chat are crazy too. But you don't have to be.
But it helps.
It helps.
Well, and you could definitely say that hyperspace jellyfish or the fin didn't need to know the 14 words to make someone fall in love with you. It just had to have a strong enough grip. Oh, good God. I'm sorry. Okay, anyway, moving on. Well, technically all that hyperspace jellyfish had to say was, hello. Anyway, okay. Let's see. The whole dynamic playing out between Dorina, Dorina, Galen, and Gideon in this episode, not to mention what a certain lieutenant has to go through. Oof. Yeah, we get Master 2.0, as Colin put it earlier on in the chat. Abel Horn has made his return, and I knew who Abel Horn is because I watched BSG, the reboot, and it was awesome. And yes, Michael Beck was awesome.
Yeah. That
anyway.
Sorry, it's kind of a shame that character didn't get more airtime. He got very little, but he still had a good impact on the episode and on the lore itself. And it shows what JMS does. Even with filler episodes, they're more mortar than filler. They add to the substance of the universe.
That is true. Yeah. Well, and one of the big takeaways for me, this is kind of in Fiona's notes too. We can probably infer that Gideon's, I will say more, his loved one meant a lot to him, and to go this far to pay his last respects to her, and was very touching, because you rarely ever see this side of a technomage where they are people of feeling and have deep connections to each other. I mean, you would imagine they probably do, but more often than not, the only other technomage we ever met was Elric in season 2 when he's talking to Sheridan. Galen gives us a very good picture into just how emotionally complex a technomage can be, and how he describes what was Isabella, I believe it was the female female technomage's name, and it is, you could tell he loved her.
Yes. It's something kind of, I think, if you love someone, that you'll do anything. And last wishes, he was willing to do anything to fulfill that for her. It was a touching thing, and did show, like you said, did show the depth of feeling he had.
Yeah, and Colin did bring up a good point. We did meet the Equalizer mage, the actor who played Galen's Edward Woodward, who was the original Equalizer back in the Civ the series back in the 80s. But Galen's summation at the end of the episode, when him and Doreen are talking in the hallway, and she's like, "You said we'll get answers to all of our questions. What were the questions?" Because she's like, "I didn't hear anything." And he's like, "Well, your question was, can you truly implicitly trust anyone?" And he's like, "You've learned that you can. You can trust me. You can trust Gideon." Gideon's question, well, if he had been listening, he would have gotten it. My question, I might need to go a little bit further, but yeah. And Iverson's question, is there anything that I cannot have without consequence? And well, he's learned that. He's learning the answer to that question right now, and he's not going to like it.
Yes.
I think if we...
There was some satisfaction. There was some satisfaction with him having his files wiped.
Yes.
He is one of those characters you love to hate.
And
I think he could have been one of those real fun characters to play with if the series had progressed.
Yeah. If the series had progressed. Unfortunately, it didn't. And going to this Well of Forever, it reminds me a little bit, although the payoff is different, and I know this is kind of considered one of the lesser films in the Star Trek franchise, but it's one that I have a personal fondness for, and that is The Final Frontier, Star Trek V. And when Kirk kind of says flippantly to Spock and McCoy, "Hurry on, God's a busy man." And there's a parallel here. And I kind of want to dig into this just a little bit, if you're all right with that, Elysium.
Oh, yes.
What question, aside from the obvious, I think, why are we here? Also, a question, dogma. Why are we here? I think we all have that one question. That's why. And it wouldn't be necessary. Go ahead, Lisa.
You're roboting a bit. I think you've
sorry.
turned it up again, but you're roboting a bit there.
I think I've got an upload going through or something. That might be why. So sorry. There's not a whole lot I can do about it, unfortunately.
I had the same issue during the week, and I was on a work call and uploading at the time. I agreed to something I didn't hear at the other end. Hopefully, it's not something important.
Right. Well, am I clearing up now? Am I better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyway, going to a place like the Well of Forever or into the Barrier. Let's see. And just we have right. So it's no sign of the second listed character played by Tracy Scoggins. Yeah. Where the hell is Commander Lockley or Captain Lockley? Excuse me.
I know she appears later in the series. I think she was supposed to become more into it as it went on, but she was only in a couple of episodes.
How many episodes?
I'm not sure. I think it was only maybe two in total.
And they gave her credit for that. I'm not saying that'd be mean or anything. Just they gave her credit for 2 episodes, really.
Yeah, she. Actually, let's see there what she was in.
Well, while you're doing that, Elysium, let me ask you: if you had the opportunity to go to a place like the Well of Forever, what would be the question you would ask?
I suppose that's a difficult one, and it could be is there a way to, maybe purpose? What is the purpose of the journey? Because It's like, I think the like Robert Frost poem, can I know which fork to take? You know, when you walk, like two roads diversion of wood, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that may be my question. What are the how like here's the one. How can you tell what currents to follow and what currents to avoid? Like Veer said, the universe has currents. The currents that look like you should follow are the ones that will destroy you, and the ones that look like they're wrong are the ones where you should be. And maybe is there a way to know, to navigate the currents? That might be my question. Because I know I've chosen some things in my life that initially to the outside viewer would have seemed crazy and has worked out.
Mhm.
And I've followed some things that this seems logical, it's the right thing to do, and backfired badly. But then again, that's, I suppose, the same story anyone here could have told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to the chat as well. If you had the opportunity to go to a place like the Well of the Souls, Well of Forever, excuse me. Wrong Well of Forever. What question would you ask? And, I was watching the episode, and I had to. I was kind of debating that with myself. What question would I ask? And I have to say that my question was more theological in nature. And it might sound a bit heretical, especially for someone who's going to become a Catholic. But as one of my professors said, if you're not being a little heretical, you're not trying. If this world was meant to be perfect, Lord, then why allow? Actually, no. I rescind that question. I have a better one. Lord, if you knew what we would do with free will and how badly at times we would abuse the gift of free will that you gave us, why even bother giving it to us, knowing how some of us have abused the gift of free will?
I do remember, actually, if you want an answer, I do remember a priest saying, giving an answer to that very question we asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to be truly free, to know true love and to come to things, the possibility of pain has to be there. Because without that true love, that sacrifice you'll make of love doesn't have meaning. It's being obliged to love or being obliged to follow a path. That's no achievement, but following a path, knowing the consequences, that's true love. And that's the answer he gave me to that question I asked him. And it was the same question you asked.
Yeah, because the ability to have free will, the ability of choice,
It has its consequences.
it does.
And
It really does.
It's like the song Say That You Love Me. That doesn't mean you love the person. You're compelled to say it. But it's true from the heart saying it. That has meaning.
It does.
And it will allow us to appreciate the gifts of the next life all the more because we saw the highs and lows from here. And the highs will be higher than we can hope. And I think that actually may be a question like the currents and eddies. That may be a question that I go, yeah, That's probably a better one to ask. Have the confirmation rather than assuming.
Well, Colin brings up, has a good comment here. Actually, I think my question would be the same as Galen's. Why?
Yeah.
And, Lewis has another one. Immortality is intoxicating to us mortals, yeah. But, Okay, I'll bring this up. At the risk of going way off the rails, the idea of free will is one of the reasons why I find the idea of an omniscient creator somewhat difficult to come to terms with. And Colin, I can understand that. But for me, now I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for you, obviously, Elysium. I think the reason, and as you said, it's because of love. I think the Lord wanted to give us something that maybe he had never considered before. He wanted to create something and give it the ability to determine its own destiny. I mean, because obviously he created the angels and all of the other beings in the heavenly realms and so on, but they didn't necessarily have a will. They were instruments of his will specifically. So he wanted to give us humans, humanity, his children, something that his previous creation didn't have. And now, unfortunately, we've had people do horrific, horrible, monstrous things with the gift of free will that he gave us. But at the same time, we've also seen the counterbalance to that. We've seen people use their free will to do truly altruistic, truly wonderful, truly benevolent things for humanity. So,
Yeah, I think actually this episode too, like Galen goes with the it's the idea of faith. He had faith that out there was the well of forever. And it's like that line in the Bible that if you found the pearl, you'd sell everything you owned to purchase it. And Galen was willing to risk everything.
Yeah.
To find the answer why, or to honor that request
Promise.
of his loved one, that promise.
Yeah, Visibel. Every person's question had merit. And he even brought up Matheson had his own question, and unfortunately, being he didn't leave the ship, he didn't get his answer, and we never get the question either, which is kind of sad because I would love to know Matheson's question also, but as I said, we don't know it. An episode. Go ahead, Elysium.
No, I was just listening away there.
Okay.
So, please.
Okay. An episode like this, as I said, it's mortar to fill in the gaps of the world that we're exploring here. And you look at, let's move away from the kind of the heavier topic. Let's move on to something. Let's discuss the issue with Lieutenant Matheson and the new and improved, the kinder, the gentler, although just as bad, new non-Psychor, and of course, Mr. Cooper. I think it was his name, or
was it Mr.? I think they said it was Mr. Jones, and it was
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was I say he was a good character, but there wasn't. I think this is almost like season 4 of Babylon 5. There was a lot of episodes crammed into this one that could have done with their own.
Yeah. Well, and we get a lot more backstory. We get a lot more catch up with the whole aftermath of the telepath war and the dissolvement and destruction of the Psych Corps. And yet we've got a guy in the organization, this new telepath organization, that's almost just as bad as Bester. And it takes a little underhanded dealing by Gideon to get Matheson out of the situation that he's in. But I can't say that Gideon acted unethically, because this guy was acting unethically himself. And Fiona said in her notes, we've essentially got a Bester 2.0.
Yes. You can see in some ways this is like I see an interim step. People like him doing in some ways are necessary to almost paper over the cracks for the time being, to let society come together. But giving people like that the power that they have is dangerous, because who watches the watchers?
Yeah, exactly. And a guy like Mr. Jones is, I'm not going to say he's as slimy and as sleazy and as power hungry as Alfred Bester was.
Yes, he was. He had smaller ambitions, but I think he could have grown into the role.
And Matheson is just trying to do his job. Matheson is just trying to fulfill his duty and do his job well. And Mr. Jones comes in and says, well, you become a role model for others, and yada, 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 and you have to be held to a higher standard. No, he doesn't. Hold him to the same standard you hold everybody else. And let him be the example. Let him be the inspirational figure that he has already become. And leave it at that. Don't go beyond your mandate. His mandate is pretty simple. And yet he's trying to push. Colin, I'm not entirely sure. That would probably be a Fiona question, not a me question, because she's read all the books. She would know. So,
yeah. No, to answer Colin there, he's saying there, what if I just wanted to take the other path when they switched on the Large Hadron Collider? Now imagine if the Hadron Collider opened either, I think, to the Well of Forever, or to a universe where lederhosen or Speedos were the height of fashion. No, thank you. Oh, jeez, I wrote, look what I wrote in the thing. I wrote height of passion. I meant to wrote height of fashion. Goddamn predictive text. I'm leaving that up there because that mistake is glorious.
Yes, it is. And Lewis, thank you. I appreciate it. This was designed on a little thing called Canva, which I use for all my thumbnails and for all sorts of things that and for my new logo for the channel and yada yada yada. So it took me a while to figure this out, but I finally found a piece of software that did exactly what I wanted it to do and gave me the options that I needed. And well, hence the AW, the crest. I finally got my crest, and there was much rejoicing. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! But they finally get to the well, and Iverson's like, "Look at all the stuff they got in there. There's gold and jewels and emeralds and quantum 40 and yada yada yada." And Doreena's like, "Dude, it isn't a freaking it's a tomb. Do you want to be known as a grave robber? He's like, I don't care. We'll move it, and it'll be perfectly preserved. And I'm like, how in the hell are you gonna move something that massive? It was built in hyperspace, and you think your little piddly ass with interplanetary expeditions is gonna be able to move it? Are you brain damaged?
Yes. And it's amazing how he didn't see the true value. The true value in that place was worth more than all that Quantum 40, all of that precious metals. That place was worth way more than that, all the jewels. It's like, what profit, if you gain the whole world, you lose your soul. I mean, that place had answers, had so much more. Yes.
Yeah, it's, for Iverson, it's all about the almighty dollar and how much prestige and how much yada, yada, yada he can get out of it. I'm like, I would have loved to see your character evolve and grow beyond what you are right now, because right now you're just selfish, greedy prick. I just want to gib slap you repeatedly every time you say something. Of course, Gideon says it perfectly. If he tries to do anything, restrain him.
I honestly think Iverson reminds me so much of Rodney McKay from Stargate Atlantis. A real kind of sleazy, when you meet him first, unlikable character. But as Atlantis progressed, he became one of my favorites and a really, really good character. He showed so much more than you saw at the start. And I think Iverson would have become the same. I could have seen him becoming one of the top characters. Obviously with a redeeming arc.
Yeah, most definitely. And as you said, it's just a shame we only got 13 episodes with him. And that was it. Yes. I will say this. I have never really watched a series out of order before, but watching it in the order that JMS intended it for it to be watched in has been really, really rewarding, and I'm glad we've got it this way.
Yeah, there are some things. It will be explained in an episode or two. I'm not sure which episode it is, but you notice the uniforms are changing. There's a red uniform and a black uniform.
Yeah,
that is explained, but
it drives me just a little nuts.
There is an episode where the fashion designer for the new uniform comes on board, and there's a character who was a real evil, irredeemable Torag in B5 comes back. I won't say more than that, but he's the same character yet different. He's been through a change. I won't, because I don't want to, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to color how you'll view. Okay. So I'll say no more than that.
Well, all I know is Iverson he really grinds my gears.
Yes.
He really does. He absolutely grinds my gears at times. Yeah, and I do remember watching. I think I watched the first 2 or 3 seasons of Atlantis. I do remember Rodney McKay, and yeah, he was kind of a craphead, but at the same time,
yeah, he was.
But yeah, he had he started to turn his turnaround was nice to see. So, and I'll bring up Colin's comment here. I did find a bit odd that given Gideon's drive to find an answer to the play, he just left once Galen had done what he came for. Yeah, I would have thought, hey, they're here. He gives he does his little ritual with Isabel's ashes, and then they just leave. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? You come all this way and you don't even ask, hey, is there a way to, do y'all have any leads on how to cure the Drak plague? I mean, if this is such a treasure trove of knowledge, why not ask the question? And I will say this, I think is one of the few times Jim has dropped the ball just a smidgen.
Yes and no, I think. I think it's like if you could, what's that one that Joan Osborne thing? If you could ask God one question, and it may be that, like I said, Iverson saw the gold and the jewels, didn't see the true value.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon, I think, is a different character, and it may be overwhelming. It may be that it's like, no, we've stood on holy ground long enough. It's now our time to leave. That's one way at looking at it. I think that would explain it. But you're right. If there's answers there, it makes no sense to leave. If there's a possibility at all.
Yeah. So, but I'm again, that's just a small, minor, little nitpick, and I think it's just my own. I think that it's just my own personal opinion on this. But the conversation after they leave the Well of Forever and they're there in the gym. Yeah, Colin. Yeah, that's true. Possibly, but an explanation would have been nice. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with you too there, Colin.
Yeah, and as I started to say, the conversation between Gideon and Galen in the gym there on the Excalibur, and Galen asked Gideon, "Have you ever made a promise like that before, like the one I made to Isabella?" And he's like, "Yeah, 300 times over." And he's like, "Have you fulfilled it?" He's like, "No." And this episode does beg, or doesn't beg, but it does present the question: how far do you go to show devotion or dedication or love to someone who is now gone? And I think what Galen, the ends he was willing to go to, really says how much Isabel meant to him. And I think that's something we all, at one time or another, ask ourselves: how far are we willing to go to keep a promise to someone who's no longer here, to know that the promise has been kept? And really a question to our own eternal personal integrity as an individual.
As you were mentioning there, I think Galen and Marcus are so similar. I think Marcus was another character who would have taken the Excalibur there had Ivanova wanted her ashes scattered on the Well of Forever. Marcus certainly would have done it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And, I've if I might be a bit personal for a minute, to put it bluntly, I've buried a lot of family from the age of 7 on. And this episode really put forth, in my mind at least, some of the promises I made on the graves of ones I called family and that I loved. And this is something that's even been in my mind before this episode, but really brought it to the forefront. And for those of you who know, I just lost an uncle back in March. My surviving, well, up until just recently, the last surviving male member of my mom's side of the family, my family aside from myself. We found out just a month or so ago that my late uncle's youngest daughter, my cousin, and her husband are expecting their first child, a son. And I don't want to sound selfish, but it made me feel good inside to know that I'm not the last one. But it also brought forth to my mind a promise I made to my mom and to her brother, my uncle. Granted, mom's still around, but thank you, Colin. Appreciate it. This is hard for me to say, and I'm sorry, guys, but I just want to try and get this out. I made a promise to my uncle and to my mom. I would do my damnedest to try and keep me and my other two cousins together. And to say I've been entirely successful would be a lie. Because I haven't. Because my uncle's oldest daughter, my cousin, the three of us have had a falling out. I have tried so very hard to keep that promise. I'm going to keep trying to mend things between the three of us. I have prayed and I have cried and I have had some sleepless nights. But I have to say this, if Galen can keep his promise to his love, then I will be damned if I quit and keeping my promise. Because my family is everything to me. I would not be who I am without them, and my life would be a hell of a lot emptier without them around. And I think this episode, for those of us who have had the opportunity to watch it, or who will get the opportunity to watch it, I think it gives a very good opportunity for some deep introspection. How far would we be willing to go? What lengths would we be willing to take to keep a promise to one who is not here to hear it? Because it does speak volumes of a person's own integrity. If they're willing to go as far as Galen was to one who is no longer here. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
I think for me, it's the attempt that matters. That some people will make a promise and forget about it. Some people will make that promise and do their best to fulfill it, even if that goal is unreachable. And it's the attempt to honor that is what matters. The ends will take care of themselves. And we cannot, it's like the line in Lord of the Rings, why don't be so quick to deal out death, for even the wise cannot see all ends. We don't know what journey the other person or the other thing is on, that they need to go a route before it comes back. So it's the attempt that matters. We don't know the plan, we don't know what, be it God, be it the universe, be it life itself, we don't know what that has planned for us or what's in store. So it's the attempt that matters. Because looking back, you'll see those roads that you've taken. And you'll see, well, I followed that, I did my best. And that's ultimately how you will be judged.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't want to end this stream on the down note, so I do want to. You brought up the uniforms before, and I'm thinking, okay, how many costume changes is this poor crew going to have to go through? 1 week they have a patch signifying what organization they're with. 1 week they don't. 1 week their uniforms are a hideous gray jumpsuit. The next week they look more something like out of B5 proper. costumers, make up your cockamamie minds. For the love of Pete, please.
I'm trying to find the name of the episode where I had supposedly the fashion designer for the new uniforms. And let's see what the name of the episode was. Let's see, rules of the game. I think it's appearances and other deceits.
It might be.
Hey.
I'm not sure if that's the next one. It might be. I'll have to check the list.
But it
Mhm.
it is, from what I remember, the character, what the designer was a really fun character. There's a lot of humor running through Crusade, which I find is, well,
Yeah.
I should be worried if I find JMS if we're on the same page on humor, because some of it's pretty out there.
Yeah, like a space jellyfish trying to mate with a spaceship.
Wow, 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 wow. I guess imagine like they should be hanging a medallion over the. Yeah, did it have chest hair or its equivalent? That's a question.
Or is the hamster voiced by Chris Rock said in Dr. Dolittle, "I've just been violated." Oh, Lord. Well, Elisa, my friend, any other thoughts on the episode? Anything else you want to bring up that we may have missed?
No, I think that was we've pretty much covered
Yeah.
most of it.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger points anyway. I mean, and of course, Lieutenant Matheson got his moment out in hyperspace and he was very happy. And I was very happy for him. I'm like, he got to go out into hyperspace. Let's see how much more powerful he becomes. And how much, and you know, yeah, that's, you know, the episode ended on a nice note. So, well, anyway, my friends, Romans, ambassadors, lend me your ears. That's disgusting.
They're attached to my head.
I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for this afternoon, but I do want to thank my good friend, Mounds of Elysium, for joining me today. As always, we will be back next week. Same Babylon time, same Babcom time, same Babcom channel. And with our next installment of Council of Ones, I do want you all know that I will be planning a review for Andor. Yes, I did watch Andor last night. And yes, to put it briefly, I was very, very happy. Very solid start. So, and I've got some other shenanigans planned for the channel coming up down the road. So keep your eyes and your ears glued to my social media. So, but we're going to call it a day. You all have a wonderful evening, a good weekend. We will see you all next week. And until next time, this is the Council of Ones. My friend, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Zooty!
Zooty!
Zoot! Zoot!
Zoot! Zooty! Boom, chicka, wow, wow. Zooty! Boom, chicka, wow.